Hello all. It's been a minute since I did a video, but I figured, after playing a bunch of gifts and doing some stuff just a little bit different, I figured it was time I make another set, and I played through this league and I thought it was kind of interesting, so I figured I'd just kick it off with hopefully making some more regular content as I prep for GP Portland. This is the list that I'm currently running, and the one that I ran through this league. Notably, the flex cards right now are the repeal, the noxious, the unsub, and the remand. I'm only running one remand and then an unsub and a repeal over the other two remands. I have the main board noxious, and I'm running one empty the warrens over one grape shot, which Caleb has recently kind of brought back as a metagame thing, but I've been running on and off for a couple years now. Sideboard is Too Thick in the Ice. This card's been stellar. 2 Abrade, one of the best cards to recently enter Modern. 3 Lightning Bolt, which is my preferred number. I have 2 bounce spells, split between Wipe Away and Echoing Truth, depending on what matchups that I'm expecting. And since I have the 1 empty in the main deck, I actually have left only 1 in the sideboard and the 4 pieces. So, without much ado, let's get into the first match. I lost the die roll, so I'm actually on the draw. I believe we both keep 7. This hand's okay. It's nothing stellar, essentially, but it could be a turn 2 6 goblins, which will sometimes get you there. And depending on the matchup, is reasonable. This guy suspends a Greater Gargadon on turn 1, which makes me think it's Bridgevine, essentially. That's the only deck that's playing that as of right now. My first draw is a Brawl, so the first thing you always do before casting Serum Visions is fetching, because you want to maximize your scries in this deck. So not only did we thin a land out, we also get to push 2 cards potentially if we don't want them. Draw another Serum Vision, see a Brawl, and an Opt. I'm not interested in the second Brawl in this matchup, and I'm not really that interested in the Opt, so I'm gonna push both of them. And I have a couple good cantrips for the next round. He gets his Greater Gargadon trigger, plays a Jund land, and casts Burning Inquiry. This bins one of my Serum Visions, one of my lands, and an empty, but draws me 2 lands and a Past in Flames, which honestly I would have rather had the other stuff. But he has a Bloodghast, which makes me think that it is, in fact, some kind of graveyard shenanigans here. And this guy likes to fetch in response to his Bloodghast triggers, so he makes a bunch of mana with the trigger on the stack and then has the pass priority. I draw another land, and this time I actually cast Serum Visions first because I'm not particularly interested in fetching for the rest of the game. I'm going to push both these to the bottom because neither of them are what I'm looking for. Play a Spire Bluff Canal and just pass the turn. I drew the 1 remand, which could become relevant if he ends up casting the Greater Gargadon. It's one of the nice things about remand is you can sometimes snipe spells there with it. He just casts a value Bushwhacker here and hits me for 5. His pressure hasn't been very good this game, and I'm not really under that much threat, which is pretty good. Here I draw gifts, so I'm actually just going to play the Baral and ask him if he has a removal spell. Because these kind of decks, especially Dredge in this style, will usually play 4 Bolt. In this one, if they play any bolts at all or any kind of removal spells. So now he has another Burning Inquiry. I bin a Gifts, a Flooded Strand, and a Past in Flames, but I draw 2 more Gifts and a Noxious Revival, which is pretty good. Because at this point I have everything I need to combo next turn, and we'll go from there. Here I decided to block the Bloodghast because the chances that he has something that deals 1 versus something that deals 3 is rather low. Some of these lists, if they're playing the Arclight Venus, are playing Gutshot and or Flame Jab, but this guy looks like he's on a bridgevine list, which they don't play Arclight. and the only card that I could see them playing that they might is Dark Blast, and they only play 1 and 2 of those, on average. It does give him 2 zombies, but that doesn't really matter because I'm planning on killing him next turn. Here he gets back the Blood Gas. I believe his Gargadon's on 5 counters, so next turn he can basically make a whole bunch of zombies, get back a Gargadon, or get his Gargadon, and potentially whacker us, but he doesn't get a next turn. Because at this point, I just cast Desperate Ritual, cast Gifts, and I can get the standard pile. The Noxious Revival lets me put whatever I need back on top of my deck if he gives me Manamorphose, Past in Flames. And if he gives me both the rituals, which in this case he gives me Manamorphose, Desperate Ritual, so I don't even need to use the Noxious Revival. Always play to your opponents being bad and not actually knowing what your deck does, because you'll win way more games that way than you would ever imagine. But essentially, just go through that, and my opponent concedes. So that's the end of this game. Sideboarding for this match. So since I expect a bunch of graveyard hate, what I would do in this matchup is I took out 2 Goblin Electromancers. I take out the Remand, the Unsub, and the Noxious, because those are all cards that I don't really want. I should have taken out the Repeal, but I was not really thinking too terribly hard for this game. And what I did is I brought in the 4 pieces of the puzzle, 2 Thing in the Ice, and 1 Empty. I believe I said I took out 2 Gifts as well. I like hedging on 4 pieces, 2 Gifts, 4 pieces, 1 Gifts 80% of the time. But what I probably should have done a little bit better is I should have also removed the Repeal. Could have potentially also removed a Past in Flames and 1 other card for either an Echoing Truth in case he makes a whole bunch of goblins, or a couple bolts for the burn plan. He gets to be on the play. This hand's perfect. It's everything you'd ever really want in a Gifts hand. Cantrip to set up your turn 3 kill and then turn 2 bear. He just leads off with the looting. He also kept 7. It discards 2 bridges, so he's on a pretty aggressive start. Fetch basic island. Cast the Serum Visions. See Thing in the Ice, Scrape Shot. I'm gonna keep both of those. Scalding Tarn on top. Thing in the Ice, 1 more down. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm planning on playing the Baral next turn, and if it dies I have the Thing in the Ice as a backup plan, and if it doesn't I just kill him on turn 3. He just hard casts a Blood Gas, which is really good for me because that's doing almost nothing. I pay 2 here, cast the Baral, pass the turn back to him. He casts Looting, discards another bridge and a Viscera Seer, casts a Stitcher's Supplier, putting a bunch of cards in his bin, a Hollow One. That's the other reason to potentially bring in a Braids, because a Braids hit both his creatures and Hollow One. He gets back a Bloodghast, fetches, shocks, casts a Viscera Seer, and basically each one of his guys represents 3 2/2 zombies right now. Which he starts by sacking the Stitcher's Supplier to put 3 things in his graveyard. Getting a whole bunch of zombies. And the 4th bridge as well. Here, I just decide to block, because he's dead next turn. It doesn't actually matter. And then just do the standard stuff. So I'll go to my turn, play my land, cast a bunch of rituals, cast a gifts, and just get the standard pile, kill him. I believe he concedes pretty soon here. Yeah, I don't know if it's just the end of the game or something, but um, the videos seem a little, or the replays seem a little broken, which I know the Moto goes back and forth on that. But he basically died here. I don't remember if I actually had to cast all the spells. I think I did. Um, but this is as far as the recording goes. So, um, yeah, pretty straightforward. He was slower than I was, and I just killed him on turn 3. I'll see you guys for game 2.